is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco. Now, your hosts, Vach Lombardi, Nick Harris, Bobby Belt, Tommy Yarish, and Kyle Yeomans.
Today is Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, and we are 51 days away from the NFL Draft in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Welcome into the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, we are all back in the SWPC studios with Vach Lombardi, Nick Harris, Tommy Yarish, Bobby Belt, Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Everybody is back in town, whether it be from the Super Bowl, the Senior Bowl, the Combine, and now it's the final push to the NFL Draft. Gentlemen, it's good to be back in studio. How's it going, Nick?
It's going fantastic. Man, what a week last week, right? Combine is the busiest week on the NFL calendar. Last year was no different, and it was a lot of fun. I'm excited to dive into what we got out there.
I thought Tommy did a great job on DallasCowboys.com.
What did he do?
He wrote a wrap-up article where it's all the bullet points of like the storylines from the Cowboys and the storylines from the draft and things of the sort that are all easily digestible. So if you missed anything last week, one, go listen to the 3 shows that we recorded on Radio Row, please. But then 2, go ahead and check that out too, because it's a good roadmap. But there's a lot of interesting tidbits and information that worked out there from the Combine last week.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. Second of all, read all of our work here. Nick did a good job too out there. And Bobby,
Nick doesn't
listen to
work here.
Bobby and watch Vach, and I guess Kyle was there too.
Watch
but
Vach.
no,
Hashtag watch Vach. That should
hashtag watch Vach. There you go. No, there was, especially on the roster right now, right? Like franchise tagging George Pickens, which we knew was going to happen. It was only a matter of time. You think about the moves that players have made. Maris Levi's going outside linebacker. Donovan Izaraku is an outside linebacker now. So that kind of gives you an idea of what they're thinking about there. And then just hearing about, some of the young players that this team is really high on, like Izaraku, Savone Revel's name came up a lot. Jaden Blue's name came up a lot while we were out there. So kind of gives you an idea of how this team is looking forward with some of these younger players, and also the amount of defensive formal meetings that we saw there and that prospects were telling us they had with the Cowboys.
The
really
87 prospects.
Yeah, the 87 formal meetings that definitely all happened.
So frustrating.
Yeah, poor kids.
Can I give a little bit of a glimpse behind the scenes there?
Yeah, go ahead.
So for like the first 2 days, we are working our butts off trying to figure out who these formal meetings are. And basically the situation is they rotate in by position group. So like, I guess Wednesday was D-line or Thursday was DBs, right?
Yeah.
And then they stagger them every 20 minutes. And so you have 8 going at a time during a 20-minute period, and then they stagger them and just keep rotating until they're done for the day. And that typically lasts about 4 hours. So myself, Tommy, a few others, Nicole Hutchison was in that group. There are a lot of people in that group that we basically split podiums up, and we're trying to just ask everybody, hey, do you have a formal meeting with the Cowboys, formal meeting with the Cowboys? We're like, man, the first day, we got 30. Like, we're already, like, knocking this out. And then, like, halfway through day 2, we crossed 45, and we're like, oh. And then we hear that there's 10 formal meetings that were scheduled with offensive players, and we haven't talked to one offensive player yet. We're like, damn. So, yeah, take that formal meeting list with a grain of salt, but I think there were some ones that were certainly on there.
Go ahead.
You got it.
It happens every year.
Yeah,
it happens every year. It's that, some of these players, they don't know the difference between an informal or formal meeting, or there's so much gray area where it's like, if you talk to an NFC scout with the Seahawks, for example, for 10 minutes in an elevator, do you consider that a formal meting? And they're asking all kinds of questions.
Stuck in the elevator.
But that's what I'm saying. But from a player's standpoint, right? How many of them were okay? Thanks, guy.
So it was a big building.
Yeah, it was a big building. A lot of stories.
476 floors. But no, if you don't know the correct definitions of ins and outs, and from an agent standpoint too, if you're telling these players like, hey, if you say you have a formal meeting with this team, it doesn't hurt you in any way, I don't think.
I had this was brought up because in the past it has, I think, typically been players not understanding necessarily what the definition of it is. It's such a specific thing. A lot of guys can go like, yeah, I talked to him for an extended period of time. That's a formal, right? Like a lot of them just didn't know. Somebody on the beat had suggested that was like, what if agents are just coaching players. And I went, after I heard that, I went and asked around, and I heard, like, yeah, most agents are telling their players, if you get asked, did you have a formless team? Yep. Because the team's generally not going to circle back around and correct you if you're wrong, and it can only be good for you. Look at all this buzz you're generating.
Yeah,
and
we just asked that on the draft show. It was our second episode of the draft show last week when we kind of started seeing it, and that was the question: is it an influence from your representation?
Yeah,
because it's not necessarily a negative, right?
No, there's no negative to saying you're meeting with every team in the NFL formally. That sounds really good for you. And so, yeah,
Isn't it bad to lie though?
Yeah, but I mean,
not always.
Then you just say that you didn't understand the definition of it. So I thought it's plausible deniability. It's technicalities,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. So if with that being said, does the list completely get thrown out the window, or is this something that I think you have to just maneuver through?
If you wanted to ask me about names individually, I have a pretty good grasp on who actually was and who wasn't at this point. Caleb Downs was, yes.
Yeah.
But there is not a next year. I will not be doing the same thing.
You're not going to the podium.
I'm not doing the podium. I'm going to chase it a different way. And so
the Archer way.
Yeah, the Archer way. Yeah, where I show up at 10 and just ask one person. Which, all respect to Archer, that's how he could do it.
Can I have the? Can you just give me the list? Like, let's just save some time here. But no, 45 meetings is what they're allowed to have, and then a lot of informal meetings. Vach, based on your digestion of the combine, yeah, but you read it and you were
in spirit.
I lean on y'all. Y'all my guys. I love y'all. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't ready to take it seriously until Nick Harris says, hey, I saw such and such walk around the Star. Or they was looking at the grass, or somebody's having food over in that section. When we hear people doing that, I go, oh, well, they're having lunch at the Star. Like, that's more important to me, right? As opposed to I bumped into somebody at the combine. So I really didn't even care.
But in terms of the combine itself, what were some of the takeaways that you had from combine week and some of the rumors that you had maybe heard or maybe wanted to latch onto?
I'll tell you this, Kyle Yomes. I never really cared about combine in that way because I'm not media dude like y'all. So I thought combine was just we gonna show up and watch people run. The good mess happened at the combine, like with the bumping into people and talking, talking in the interviews and all this kind of stuff. So now I'm like, damn, boy, I would have loved to have bumped into somebody and asked somebody a weird question about something. Or if I was at something that y'all was at, I would have loved to have been part of that because I like information, good mess, and just learning stuff. I don't necessarily care about the workouts. Once I build my board, I'm mostly film anyway. You know what I'm saying? So even if I see Sonny Styles run around real fast, I knew Sonny Styles was big and he run around real fast. I didn't think he was going to jump the high, but I knew who he was, right? But if I was about to say a bad joke, but look, but when the mess happens and Bobby go, hey man, I just bumped into Christian Park and he said, that's what I found valuable. So I want to go to combine next time.
You should go to combine because it is the greatest hub of information that exists in the NFL offseason, not just for draft. Like that's for people who are explicitly draft focused, it's great. Then there's I heard Hellman talking about this a little bit with Dane. Like Dane he's focuses on the draft. Hellman focuses on everything. So Hellman's week is split up much differently in terms of what he's trying to run down and run around and who he's trying to talk to. Dane is still taking up like focusing on a lot of this. You really run into a lot of that while you're out there of just trying to manage your time of how to go around, how to find certain things out. And the great thing about Indy is that you don't even have to ask sometimes. You're just standing somewhere when big information's like, oh, it's right there. That's significant. Okay, it's just right here while you're sitting at dinner, and it happens to be the next table over. And so it's a great experience. You'd love it.
It's like spring break for the NFL. Spring break for coaches, executives.
Yeah, Scouts Gone Wild. Yeah.
See, I didn't want to say it because I was about to say, but
no, it's a wild week. There's a lot of people talking. There's a lot of things going on.
It's a lot of information.
You got Will McClay with his shirt on.
Will McClay here with his
yeah. Combine standouts and storylines. I put it in the rundown. 2 players that changed their stock, whether it was good or bad, at the NFL Combine. Tommy, I'll start with you. Who were some of the guys that stood out and some of the guys that changed their stock?
Well, we're positive here, so I'll go with 2 guys who changed them in a positive way. Number 1 for me, Dylan Thieneman, the safety from Oregon. He ran much faster than I thought he did. Finished with a 4.35 40, 41-inch vertical jump, 10-foot 5-inch broad jump, and 18 reps on bench press. I don't really care about the bench press, but I think he's much faster than I thought he would be, and I already love Thieneman. You know, I would take him at 20 if I'm Dallas, and that kind of cemented it for me, and I wouldn't really be shocked if he went higher. The other one that I've talked about a lot on this show, I really love this player, and I just hope that he can hold on to the football, is Mike Washington Jr., the running back from Arkansas. He probably had the best week of any running back from the combine. I think he had the fastest time for running backs in the 40, 4.33, and he's 6'1", 223 pounds. So this is a big dude who was kind of a power back that had a little bit of burst to him, and now he's got that much burst to him. So consider me a big fan, especially if he can hang on to the football. And, you know, again, I go back to when I walk back and look at some of the numbers for him, he's tied for the best in the SEC this past year with 6.4 yards per carry. So he was productive this past season, and I think the testing numbers moved him up some more for me.
Let me go last because I have a question to spur off of this.
Okay. I hate when I have questions, but you can have a question.
I have one every once in a while.
That's crazy. Go ahead.
No, I think Sonny Styles, like there was talk of like, well, what range could he go in? He is an off-ball linebacker. How much has that typically been valued by the NFL? I think Styles doing what he did, putting into pen like written next to his name, these are the times, this is what you did, and the way he just you hear from Renly the way he just blew away the interview process. I think it's really hard to see Styles slipping out of top 7 to 8. I mean, there was talk initially. I think early mock drafts had Sonny going like 20 to Dallas early on in some of the mock draft season stuff. So I think he's pretty much solidified himself. Somebody who dinged themselves a little bit. I'll give you two. R. Mason Thomas did not run fast enough, especially after he talked about, Newton's second law is the reason why he can rush the passer. And it's talking about like speed. And it's like, all right, well, then you can't run 4.7 at 240 pounds. Yeah. That's not going to cut it. And then he's been thought of as just, well, he's a freak. He's out of position. He needs to find the right fit and be asked to do some things NFL teams let him do. But Keldrick Falk was, I know he didn't do the full athletic testing, but the vertical wasn't super impressive. He didn't look great, I didn't think, the times that I saw him moving around. And so I thought Keldrick Falk was pretty disappointing because his whole trajectory is going to be based on what if.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of the mystery box of just, well, what if we just asked him to do something different? And we had those traits, and the traits didn't look super impressive in a week where there were a lot of guys who looked really impressive.
I'll say this, man. We're all Cowboy people. And I know at 12 overall, we would love to take a top-tier defender, because we terrible on defense. We would love to have a guy to come in and do that. But Jamal McCoy, like, not doing nothing and being like, hey, man, I just don't feel right after 2 years or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was a guy that in my mind, I was like, all right, man, if we get wiped here, I feel like Jamal McCoy will be there, and hey, man, he's removed from this. It may be a gamble, but I feel good about the player. Just on my board, because I am doing my board now. Y'all can check it out on Twitter or whatnot. Like, I don't do like you hurt, so I'm gonna drop you down the board. Like, he's a top 5 guy to me. Like, just on his film, he's 5 on my board.
Pure tape.
He's 5 on my board just off tape. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, man, McCoy is one of these guys that the Cowboys can look at 12th overall. He say, I don't feel good after, like a year and a half?
Months,
two, you know what I'm saying?
He tore it in January 2025.
Yeah. So, like, in my mind.
That would be 13 months.
13 months. So, like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, man, I would have loved to have seen him go out there, be athletic, run around, turn, plant his foot and all that. But we didn't. So, I think, and Nick could possibly talk about that, I think that may be like one less guy for us to get excited about being there at 12.
Yeah, don't expect the Cowboys to swing on any guys who have any sort of chance at being a medical redshirt this year. Multiple people talked about it publicly and privately in Indianapolis last week. So, you look at a guy like Jermon McCoy, probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Couple of guys that go ahead.
So is Lil Hurt cool, but just not redshirt, big hurt guys?
I guess that's where the nuance.
Because
you would have
one
to
of our
ask in the
DB
draft
guys,
room. Yeah, you would have to ask in the draft room about where the nuance actually does come into play there. But I guess any guy who would have a chance at being a red shirt guy, which I think you would qualify Savone Revel as a red shirt guy last year, right?
Absolutely,
even though he only played half the season. Sure. Okay, a couple of guys that I shot up my board: Monroe Freeling, tackle out of Georgia. This is a first round guy to me now. A first round guy, not a first round grade. I'd probably have a second round grade on him. Sure. But this is a guy that I think will sneak into the 20s, maybe even the 30s as well. But yeah, you look at his testing from last week, 4.93 at 315 pounds and jumped 33.5 inches. I mean, this guy's an athletic freak. Love what he's been able to do. And then, man, the year of the safety. This is the year of the safety. And I feel like every week I find a new one that I love. This week it was Traden Stukes out of Arizona. Ran a 4.33, 10.10 in the broad, 38 in the vert. And the film backs it up too. This is a round 2 safety for me. Traden Stukes out of Arizona. And then a receiver that I think we need to be keeping an eye on day 2, Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama. Tested really well last week. Has always been really consistent for Alabama. Has never really been the big shine guy. But if you look last year, whenever Ryan Williams started to dip a little bit, you saw Jeremy Bernard step forward. And I thought he had a good week of testing last week. One guy that I think his stock certainly slipped last week was Nadame Tucker out of Western Michigan. Talking about, if you're an edge rusher and you're one of the smaller edge rushers and you're running 4.73, that's not a great sign. And so I think Nadame Tucker out of Western Michigan starting to slip. For me, at least, I would expect that around the league. The question I wanted to spur off of this, if I could.
Yes, sir.
We all saw the Mekhi Lemon intrigue last week. I'll put it that way. How much do you actually put stock into, hey, okay, the interview was weird, sure, whatever. There's clips of him literally from the broadcast being told, hey, so we're going to run this at 3/4 speed. He's standing right next to the guy that's telling them this. We're going to run this at 3/4 speed, and you're just going to over-the-shoulder catch it. It was the over-the-shoulder drill for the receivers, kind of a rail shot for the quarterbacks, and he runs it at like 1/4 speed and gets completely overthrown. So it's like there was a clear, like on the broadcast, you could see that this guy's not listening. And then you hear from behind the scenes, and again, this is just rumor, but you hear from behind the scenes about teams bringing him in for formal interviews and him just bombing them. So like first off, from a Cowboys perspective, not great, because you were hoping that a guy like Mekhi Lemon sneaks into the top 12 after a week last week. But how much stock do you even put into it from a team that is picking in the first round, and let's say you need a receiver?
Wide receivers always been weird people.
And that's you factor that in too. You factor that in too, absolutely.
As an ex-O-line guy, just watching wide receivers, they've always been like different kind of dudes. But I do think at the combine, where there's this level of seriousness, sometimes you can superstar your way into being aloof. You know what I mean? Sonny Styles brothers, by the way, because even Lorenzo was like, I just ran faster than all y'all, but I'm locked in. Sonny's like locked in. But you know what I'm saying? You just so cool. Sometimes being so superstar-y, so cool, so da-da-da, you had an interview. You know what I'm saying? Whether they talking to us or because if they talking to us, the coaches see them talking to us. You know what I'm saying? I do think that'll rub some coaches the wrong way. And it could be the Pickens thing, right? Like, can I really count on you to be like a locked in type dude for it? Especially if I'm going to drop a top 15 or something pick on you. You know what I mean? Some people may like it. If you're super talented, I can 30 or 40th or something, like second round pick or something like that. Think about Keon Coleman, you know what I'm saying? With the Bills. You could be weird all you want to if there's like high hype for you, but at some point, man, you need to lock in and like take this thing serious for real. And I ain't saying that's what the case is with Lemon. I wasn't in the room. But I do think in that setting, I would want players to lock in and take this thing serious.
It's probably not fair. I'm not saying it's fair.
Yeah, we don't know nothing.
I'm saying I've learned enough over being around covering the draft almost like 10 years now. If scouts or college coaches describe you as a weird dude, they never mean that in a good way. There's never anything good about that. So when they're like, he's weird. Like they mean that of like, I don't know that he fits. Like that might be so when you start hearing people in that circle say weird, again, fair or not, I'm not calling Mekhi Lemon weird, but I'm saying if there are people in the league who that's how they feel about him, that's something that will undoubtedly mess with your stock a little bit. Because you're always looking at fit and different things like that. Will McClay told us last week, we're like, I'd asked him, what's the biggest thing we get wrong? And he's like, true fit. He's like, whether like in terms of just the true way that a player fits into what you're trying to do, and weird can throw it off. Weird isn't always good, but I will say you're lucky that the Kansas City Chiefs picked 3 spots ahead of you, because that seems like one organization that if they just think you're talented enough, they'll be like, yeah, sure, whatever. He can be a little weird. We'll throw him in here. So
they have a couple of those guys on the roster already.
Yeah.
to Nick's point, though, the weirdness of the interview in my mind isn't as bad as you not paying attention to the drill that's in front of you. Like, that's the worst part.
Right. Or he just has trouble with fractions. Like, it may just be like he doesn't understand 1/4 instead of 3/4. That could be part of it.
Misunderstood it a
Yeah,
little.
like education. Like, oh, you wanted me to run 3/4 speed, not take 3/4 off. Like, that could have been what he thought it was. But no, I think that there's also it's double-sided.
Yeah.
There's another side that will look at it and go, yeah, but like he's kind of weird this way, and is he focusing all the way? And he was still that good. Like, he's still a Biletnikoff guy. Well, I can. It's the dating fallacy. I can fix him. I can fix this guy, and it'll be all right. There's enough redeeming traits. I can fix this. You just need somebody to fall in love like that.
So here's my investigative journalism work of the week. Mekhi Lemon is a communication major at USC.
False.
As a fellow communication major, I also am not good at math. So Mekhi can sympathize with you on that. But I think this is one of those cases where I'm with Vach. The not listening to if you're not paying attention in that setting, that's obviously a turnoff. And I think this is an important one where if you're scouts and if you're personnel departments, you're calling Lincoln Riley, you're calling Dennis Simmons, the wide receivers coach at USC, and you're saying, hey, what's this guy like in the locker room? What are we really getting here? And that's going to be the most important part of the process because, I mean, he won the Biletnikoff. Like, you see on film that the talent's there, that he can be a good player in the slot. But like Will was talking about with you guys, if it's not a fit, then that can cause a bunch of trouble.
Yeah.
Does it bother you, just to turn your own question on yourself?
The clip of him directly being told and him not even staring at the coach and then getting the drill wrong
that's the worst part.
when everyone else got it right, that was the worst part. Yeah, I'm with Foch there.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't think he's that good to be aloof like that.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if
He's not the number one prospect by far, head and shoulders, right?
If you was a guy, you got a little more room to be aloof. And look, Lemons could still be a first round pick somewhere, or drafted in the first round somewhere. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's like a guy like that to where teams go, hey man, he's weird, but we can't pass on this guy.
Yeah, this isn't Caleb Williams paints his nails. This isn't that. Yeah. This is I think it's something actually.
No, but and again, I also think it's different. But I mean, George Pickens, who's here now, George Pickens went where he did because people felt like he's a little different.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing, is that it's not fair because weird doesn't always mean bad.
Yeah. Mendoza's weird.
They're just like, I don't know that it jibes. Yeah. Don't know that it fits. Don't know that that's something that's going to click into place with us. And so, look, I mean, guys have had really bad interview processes, have gotten dinged with this before, and been just fine. Pickens got dinged with it. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson years ago was one of the worst interviews you'll ever hear teams talk about. Ended up being just fine at the NFL level. And so it's not a death sentence, but I think it definitely causes some teams to go, all right, slow down.
Can I ask y'all a question?
After the break.
Damn, dog.
You can ask it in the break and we can prepare ourselves.
Yeah, maybe later in the show. You can ask one later.
Nah, man, Twitter on the 20 happened, so I probably won't get my
We'll get it in
Tweet it.
third segment.
Tweet it at him.
Third
Tweet
segment.
it out, Kyle.
There it is. All right, when we come back, it's Twitter on the 20, maybe not, including Vach's question. It's got to be a good enough question. There's some good questions that we got to ask from the fans when we come back with more of the Draft Show right after this.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
How about them Cowboys? And how about them Jimmy Dean breakfast bowls? Keep your game day celebrations going with real eggs, potatoes, cheese, and our savory Jimmy Dean sausage. And with 22 grams of protein per serving, you'll have enough energy to power you from early morning to the final whistle. The no-hassle, ready-in-minutes prep makes it easy. Just heat, eat, and cheer on those Cowboys. Get yours today. Jimmy Dean brand is proud to be the official protein of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Get excited for the most dazzling DCC experience. Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders Live is coming to a theater near you. Witness iconic group and solo performances. Enjoy an on-stage Q&A session and even be a part of a live audition. Dates and tickets available on DallasCowboysCheerleaders.com/tour. Also, this segment is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. Once again, back with the entire Draft Show crew with Voch Lombardi, Nick Harris, Tommy Yarish, Bobby Belt, Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Chris Beam, it's time for
Twitter on the 20.
Yeah, right.
He was excited. He's been a week off.
That was a Ruben Bain get off. I mean, that was just before the snap even happened. He was already in the backfield.
Can I say something about Ruben Bain?
You just asked a Twitter on the 20 question.
His appearance is like the opposite of what we talking about Lemon. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like he looks like a no nonsense, bro. I ain't dressed up for this.
No lineup.
I didn't put no cologne on. I ain't take a shot. I'm here to do football stuff.
Got to be with those arms.
I like to chill out. I love it. I love those kind of guys. I just want to say it about Ruben Bain, and hopefully he'll fall to 12 because teams suck at drafting.
Yeah,
I'm small.
that would be nice.
So please.
All right. Voch Lombardi on Twitter wants to know.
You ain't had to just go right back to it, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're not going to say, like, what's up, Voch?
What's up, y'all? What's up,
We always talk about blinking lights that will make you take an offensive player at 12 overall. Are there any offensive blinking lights at 114 possibly?
Yeah, that one's a little bit more fluid, right? Because there's a lot of names that are more in the mix in round 2, round 3 than would be in like the top 11. Sure. You know, so I mean, you could look at like Jadarian Price, like if he somehow slips out of day 2.
People ask me this all the time, right? Like, is there a tight end or running back or like a receiver?
All right, if you want to go
right tackle,
impressive player, had a good week, but also like maybe has some skeletons in the closet, is also undersized, different things like that. Like somebody who feasibly could, and I don't think he will, but who feasibly could get to the 4th round because of whatever dings, that then I'd be like, yeah, I'll take Zachariah Branch. I don't think Zachariah Branch is getting to the 4th round, but there's enough in his background that like, okay, maybe there's a bunch of other receivers in this draft. It's such a top-heavy draft with receivers. Maybe there are just enough guys that he kind of slips through the cracks if teams are like, we're going to break the tie with we don't like this or we don't like that. Yeah. Then, yeah, like if that happens, which I don't think will, I think Zachariah Branch goes in the 2nd round. But if for some reason he were there at 114, yeah, needs be damned, I'm picking Zachariah Branch.
I love Zachariah Branch. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Second question. Thank you, Voch, for your phenomenal question.
Thanks, Voch.
As always. Dustin wants to know, with additional context and insight from the Combine and knowing that we need immediate day 1 starters, who does that remove from the Cowboys board at 12 and 20? Or is anybody moving up the board for a possibility there? Anybody that sticks out as somebody completely off the board, day 1 starter?
I think off the board completely, I think, is Jermon McCoy.
At least in the first round.
Yeah, in the first round, I think absolutely. With Jerry saying that they need contributors now. Moving up.
So this is just basically who are the most pro-ready players.
Yeah.
Yeah, immediate starters.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Pro-ready, plug and play. I mean,
or non-injured.
If Ruben Bain finds a way to fall there, I think he would be one. Mansour Delane, I think, would be plug and play immediately. Maybe back at 20, I think C.J. Allen is a guy that you could easily put in there and have him play early. That would be Thieneman. I mean, I can't say enough about him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the guy that really pops of just like the idea of just not ready to go potentially would be Jermon McCoy.
Yeah.
If you're talking about outside of that, where you're like gonna need some seasoning, gonna need some time, Brandon Cisse.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like Cisse is not Colton Hood. Colton Hood, I think, could be a little more ready to contribute than Cisse could.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because the run game stuff, I think he can be valuable in the box a little bit. But yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of guys where it's like just they need a little bit of seasoning. I guess if you wanted to say, which I don't think he's in play at 20 anyway, but I mean, if you're talking about somebody who it's like you need to figure them out a little bit, like Keontae Scott's another one who teams are probably trying to figure out. You may not have a great plan right away for him, but otherwise, no. I mean, I think that most of this draft, the big strength of this draft is not like super top end talent. It's that it feels like a lot of these guys are guys who are ready to play football right now.
Keontae Scott's better be ready to play football right now. He's gonna be 25 when
he's ready to. I think he's ready to play. I don't know if teams have figured out what they want, how they want to use him yet.
It's a good point. Any stock in that same question, same mindset into the rumor around Caleb Downs that's out there right now?
Yeah, the rumor is that he has a partially torn meniscus and a potentially degenerative ACL, which, as I said in our group chat last night, fellas, he could have an amputated left ankle. I'm still taking 12.
You're not taking any stock into it.
I mean,
you can take stock into it and just assess risk management with where your team's at.
What does that mean? Let's talk about that for a little bit. Degenerative ACL.
Bobby would have a better
degenerative ACL. So it's split on how people have had it described before. But one guy who previously had it described this way was Todd Gurley. And Todd Gurley was out of the NFL after 5 years. But this is similar to Broadus has told this story before, that when they were assessing picking Jeremiah Trotter out of college, that he had a degenerative knee condition that they were a little concerned about, and he had asked the doctor, he's like, can we take him? And so the doctor told him, he's like, Brian, he may play 10 games or 10 years. I don't know. He's like, it could go really quickly. He could hang around and be fine. And Jeremiah Trotter did hang around the NFL for a long time and had a successful career. I think the fact that somebody may have dinged him this way, which the way it's reported is potentially degenerative ACL. It's not even that whatever doctor would have looked at this didn't even say with certainty there's a degenerative ACL there. It's like there could be an issue there. I know that if you look at 32 doctors around the NFL, they're going to look at it all differently. So their team doctors will look at it differently. It's going to come down to, do you trust your team doctor's evaluation of it?
Dr. Cooper.
Yeah, and so it's like I mean, just what do you trust on your medical checks with your team? And if you feel comfortable with it, then you're going to rock. After Nick had mentioned this and it kind of started chugging along a little bit, just poking around and asking some people yesterday, I didn't get the sense that a lot of teams have red flags up about it.
That's good.
Like from what I can tell, I think it's definitely on the radar for some people. Specifically, though, I think it's more the meniscus part of it, of just like, hey, that may be something that needs to be managed or addressed. But I think it's a little bit more up to interpretation and opinion on the degenerative state of the ACL.
Let me ask you, if you're in the Cowboys war room and it has been determined that, hey, you can draft Caleb Downs at 12, but this torn meniscus situation, it's probably going to end up being a redshirt situation.
Ooh.
You taking him?
Wow.
Y'all are taking too long. The answer's yes. The answer's yes for me. Y'all are taking already.
I want to tell you why, though.
Say yes.
I would like to give you why.
If he falls to 12 at that point, I can probably trade down and take him. And so I would move and try to pick up extra capital. What this team's trying to do right now, there's a little bit of a misnomer, I think, for some people where they say, like, is Dallas win now? They're like, well, it's 7-9-1. You can't call them win now. No, okay, fine. They weren't good enough last, but they are rapidly trying to open a window to be win now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. And that's the thing is that
we're going to really find out next week.
So if I'm being told as part of like roster building, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to open up this 3-year window where Dak is like at his peak and before we reach decline because of age, then I would say, all right, if that's the end goal, no.
I think I'm right there with you.
I think at that point I'd rather take somebody at 12 and try to get Thieneman at 20.
It goes against everything you've talked about, everything you've contemplated over the last couple of years. I get it. He's the best non-quarterback, even the best, I would venture to say, most talented, safest player in the draft in 2026.
Yeah. If I'm building for a decade,
that's not safe.
Yeah.
You know, that's where, if your window was going to be 27, 28, 29, then maybe you can do that and you're going to take it and roll with it. But in 2026,
I'm
trying to open up
parts of it, but you're trying to open the window this year.
I'm trying to open a window that, in theory, about 3 years should expire before I'm even making the decision on his 5th-year option.
Yeah.
So like it's so much now that I'm like, yeah, he's great, and if we're building for 10 years, I'm all over it. but it's the same thing that would like remove McCoy from it. Where I'm just like, I'm out on this because I need guys now, so I would turn to Thieneman at that point.
So to that point, right? Wouldn't your 2027 and 28 rosters be also like factored into that or whatever? Like, yeah, like we're not just like the Cowboys not trying to win a Super Bowl in 26. Like right now, they're not trying to do it right now.
They're always trying to win.
They're always trying to win a Super Bowl, right? But they're looking at the next 3 years, like you said, right? So if you could say, hey, man, Downs, man, he may not be here now, but in 27 and 28, he will be.
So I'm opening up my like if you look at the way they're already making some financial decisions.
Yeah.
I think when you talk about the 3 years, it's more how you're trying to control your budget and your cap. You're trying to create a situation where you may, in 3 years, potentially be looking at cap situations are not great. We're going to have to start making some decisions because we opened up this window and it didn't work out. And so I think it's less about the talent and
Or it did.
Or it did, yeah, and it could work out, but if you're talking about now, it's a 2-year window. You don't get 3.
Yeah,
because that's your biggest piece of cap.
I would take 2 years of Caleb Downs over 3 years of anyone else. Because that's the question we're asking at the end of the day. I'm taking 2 years of Caleb Downs over it.
What if I tell you it's Bain and
Yes.
Thieneman?
Yep.
You'll take Downs over Bain and Thieneman?
I would take 2 years of Downs over 3 years of Bain or 3 years of Thieneman.
but that would ultimately call
that coupling.
2026. That would call 2026 a wash.
Bain at 12.
That's not a wash. That's not a wash at all. You go spend in free agency and get your guy.
But you're wanting to build your defense around the guy that's going to redshirt.
You still have another
2026?
first round pick at 20.
I get it.
And
But you're not.
You go get Downs and Thieneman.
Because
Maybe we can talk about
I'll
that.
do that
And then
anyway,
they're the pair for the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I mean, I think
talk me
also
into that.
they're going to. The benefit of having free agency before is you can kind of get a handle on what are we looking at here, like what is left and what do we need to do to structure things. But I mean, Downs is the perfect player for what I think we believe Christian Parker wants to do.
Absolutely.
It's just I don't know that anybody feels like they've got time to cut this window by a third.
What makes me side
Guy
with
Lemon.
Nick, but like not all the way, is like I'm thinking about this draft in particular. If it's Bain, I'm taking Bain over Downs. If Downs is hurt, I'm taking Bain over Downs. But thinking about this draft, it'll make me sick if I go, all right, is it Downs or like Colton Hood? Is it Downs or like Cassius Howell or something like that? And I would make myself sick if I say I'll take these dudes over Downs minus 1 year. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If like this ain't some year where if you don't get Micah, you get Rashawn Slater. You know what I'm saying? Like once you on the board at 12, Downs might be your last guy that you smiling about. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to be to a point where I'm missing on Downs, but I'll take this second round graded player at 12th overall. That'll make me take Downs and be like, all right, just sit down 1 year and just come back in 27-20.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Downs is on the board and they don't really have anybody left that's graded in the first round, which I don't think would be the case, but if that is the case, then yeah, I think at that point they would just say, all right, we'll pick whoever and we're going to treat it as though we have 2 first-round picks next year.
Yeah. I think the number one thing to remember here for everybody at home, this is just a hypothetical.
We just
It's not out for the 2026 season, right?
That's fine.
Yeah, correct.
And even if it's a partially torn meniscus,
That's
probably not.
There's no chatter that he would, that I've heard that he would be out for the whole
I
season.
just want to be clear on that so that way nobody knows. We're just bringing up a hypothetical situation.
Bobby, would you take Keldrick Falk over Downs if Downs couldn't play this year?
No.
Okay. Just,
We're going to have to push.
because
Twitter
we're
on
about
the
to
next
fuss.
segment.
No.
We was about to
No, I would
fuss.
not take Keldrick Falk.
Okay, I got you.
Max wants to know who is a guy who is well known that the Cowboys like and are interested in. Examples: 2023. You remember mentioning that they liked Mozzie Smith and they had interest in Tyler Guyton. And there's the last season where they had the Ted McMillan stuff. Anybody that they are interested in after the combine that you've heard?
So if you just rewind the last 3 minutes, yeah, they like Caleb Downs.
Sonny Styles. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
As is sometimes the case with everything in life, sometimes what you're pursuing, you might be falling in love with someone who's outside your range is just the problem. Because I mean, Sonny Styles is at this point, I don't think it's going to be there.
Yeah.
But I do think they love Sonny Styles. I think they love Caleb Downs, and just now it would be a question of how comfortable are they with Downs' medical? How comfortable is the rest of the league with Downs' medical to where they could even potentially push him down to you?
Sure.
In past years, the Cowboys have taken Tank Lawrence, because, and this is from Jake, by the way.
So, Jake.
Tank Lawrence, because they were he was the last one available at their position of need. What position would they most likely sacrifice value to get a position because of the lack of a day 2 pick? So
this is I want to bring up a fascinating situation where you're wiped out at 12, and you have the guys that we've been talking about off the board: Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Mansour Delane,
which is
Bailey and them.
Bailey,
it's
Bain,
possible.
Jeremiah Love. They're all off the board, right? And we've talked about that situation enough. Dylan Thieneman, just take him at 12. I'm okay with that.
Thieneman or Howe?
Thieneman.
Thieneman or Falk?
Thieneman.
Thieneman or Thieneman or Malinoa?
Thieneman.
Oh, you just talking about defense?
There was a
people?
little hesitation.
Do what?
Were you just talking about defensive players?
See, that's where we
Position
talk
of
about.
need.
Okay,
Yeah,
if it's
of need. Okay.
let's say it's a Thieneman versus Malinoa situation.
Okay.
That's exactly what he's talking about there, where it's like you take the last guy at a position of need, maybe over someone you valued a little bit more. Because I will finish with Malinoa with a higher grade than Dylan Thieneman.
Yeah.
But Dylan Thieneman is such a baller, and you need him at a position of need. I think he could play nickel too, and I think he has the athleticism and physicality to step up and affect the backfield. I would take him at 12, and I'd be just fine with it.
would, yeah.
Would it be ideal? Probably not, but I'd take him at 12 just to have him.
I think it's you're looking at coming out of Indy. One of the big things I came away with was I felt like 12 or 20, one of them is going to be a defensive back. Like I don't think that I don't think it's a thing where it's like, oh, okay, Sonny Styles gets to us at 12. There's our linebacker. I think they're looking at 20 as like a defensive back at all costs. I think at that point they might say, all right, this edge rusher might be a little bit ahead of this corner or whatever, but like we need pieces there. That seems to be the area that they are most concerned with right now is the secondary.
But again, I think we're gonna find out a lot more next week.
Floor is yours, Tommy.
I'm with Nick. I think if you're wiped and Thieneman's there at 12, I got no problem with that. He can be the kind of player that Christian Parker was talking about in terms of the nickel corner that can kind of do everything, because you're going to have so much responsibility. There's so many guys I think in this class that they're nickel guys. Like Keontae Scott, I think is a great example from Miami. Nickel corner who is kind of limited in what he can do in coverage. Whereas you get Dylan Thieneman and he can check every box for you. He can cover, he can play in the box, and he can get after the quarterback. Those are the three things that you want your nickel to do, right? And I think that Thieneman fits that mold. I think Caleb Downs is the pristine example of doing all those things at a high level. But I think Thieneman does a good job of that as well, just as good. I wouldn't say better, but good enough to where you can still get a really good player that can be the heartbeat of your defense.
So what's wiped? Like when you say like you'll take Thieneman at 12 if you're wiped. So who has to come off the board for you to say? All right,
that was what we just walked through.
So no, but like
both
Downs,
your linebackers, both
Delane.
your edges, both your corners. Sorry. So Reese.
So it'd be Reese, Bailey, Bain.
Reese, Bailey, Bain.
So we're including Bain in that.
Yeah.
Delane. We're not mentioning McCoy because he's hurt guy.
Downs.
And Downs.
I'm thinking more and more Bain's going to be there at 12. Just the
I think
more
so, too.
you hear people talk.
It's starting to
so,
sound
too.
like that.
Well, we about to have a damn party if that's the case. But this is like if Bain
Bain may be there at 13.
if teams somehow got good at what at that
What is that?
At 13.
the Cowboys would the Cowboys not? Are the Cowboys going to suck at drafting because Bain
No.
arms are short?
No. I'm just saying, like, I'm saying you have no idea what the board would look like. Maybe somebody's falling there that you're looking at and you're going, oh, I'd rather have that over.
You
Bain.
see Bain differently. If you had to make a board, you would say Bain's like a 15, top 10 guy for you?
Yeah, 15. Like I don't like they.
He's like 5 for me.
They brought that up. Sean and RJ brought that up yesterday, where they were like, "Hey, if he somehow a prayer is answered and he falls to your 12," I'm like, him falling to 12 doesn't feel like prayer to me, like or a prayer answered. 12 feels like about where he should go.
I have
like I
as
feel
my
like
12th player.
Yeah, I feel like he's 12 to 15.
Yeah.
Like I would say I don't think it's tags touching with Bain and Bailey like a lot of people have talked about. I think Bailey is significantly better.
If the Cowboys pick Bain, does he play 4-eye or does he play linebacker?
4-eye.
That's a good question. I think probably 4-eye.
For sure.
All right.
That's worth noting.
That does it for Twitter on the 20. Had a lot of questions, great questions. I may even ask a couple of these in the next segment because when we come back, we're
Tweet it at yourself.
I'm going to tweet it. Yeah, there you go. When we come back, I want to continue having conversations about maybe the options for Dallas and positions of need. Has that shifted a little bit now with the Christian Parker conversation and what we heard even this past week about what his scheme is going to look like as well? More of the Draft Show right after this.
Cowboys fans, when it comes to navigating the ever-changing world of tax, your business needs a partner it can trust to tackle even your biggest tax challenges. Ryan is the largest firm in the world dedicated exclusively to business taxes. Our team of tax professionals has local expertise in all areas of tax and can help you uncover savings opportunities you didn't know you had. Learn more about how Ryan can improve your overall corporate tax performance by visiting Ryan.com. Ryan, the official tax partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
How about them Cowboys? And how about them Jimmy Dean breakfast bowls? Keep your game day celebrations going with real eggs, potatoes, cheese, and our savory Jimmy Dean sausage. And with 22 grams of protein per serving, you'll have enough energy to power you from early morning to the final whistle. The no-hassle, ready-in-minutes prep makes it easy. Just heat, eat, and cheer on those Cowboys. Get yours today. Jimmy Dean brand is proud to be the official protein of the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show this summer, train where the stars are made at Dallas Cowboys youth football and dance camps. Athletes of all skill levels, ages 6 to 16, are invited to learn from former NFL players and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. Step onto the field and practice like the pros. Register before May 15th to save $25. Visit DallasCowboys.com/camps to register. Final segment here of the Draft Show on a Tuesday, the week following the NFL Combine. Had a lot of great questions on Twitter on the 20 on the tweet today, so I want to ask a couple more of these. And this is kind of what we already were looking at in this segment going into it. But Sam wanted to know, with each position of need, what round caliber of player would be an upgrade over what the Cowboys have on the roster already? So we can just go position by position. We'll start with linebacker. Oh, good. What caliber of round grade would be an upgrade over what Dallas has at linebacker?
At linebacker?
Yes.
Assuming that we're not
Seventh?
talking about Overshown, but like anybody in the top 3 or 4 rounds is probably better than.
I mean, legitimately anybody who could go in the top 150. Would be just because Overshown was coming back from an injury where it looked like he was. The question there is just like, is this just the new norm, or is there rust that he was knocking off? And so until that question's answered, if you just go by the guys you had all season, like Kenneth Murray, I would take any linebacker that's draftable over Kenneth Murray.
I will say, you hear Jerry and Steven talking about spending a little bit more in free agency than they have in the past. I think you're going to see that show up at linebacker the most. So, probably revisit this next week.
Yeah, once we kind of see what they're doing. All right, what about edge rusher? Same kind of thing?
You only got 2. You got Dono and that's James Hughes.
Yeah, good enough
And
to
Maris
be.
Leofau.
So we're saying good enough to be a top 2, somebody who would start for them.
Yeah. Upgrade over what you've got.
Do we include Clowney in that? Who's a free agent? No, don't include Clowney.
Probably not.
Okay, so we would say Houston and Ezeraku right now, as of this moment.
I think most of these guys in the first and second rounds would play over Houston.
I was going to say day 2 and up.
Yeah, it's a
top 100
first 2 days. Yeah. Once you get into 4th round, I mean, James Houston played well for stretches last year, so I don't want to just completely throw him under the bus.
Cornerback. That one's a tough one to answer.
Corner's healthy.
Who's healthy? Who's ready to play? Corners are so inconsistent in terms of how ready to play they are at the NFL level.
Because if Bland and Revel both are not healthy, then the top 5 rounds, I think. Yeah. I think it stretches that far. But let's say Bland and Revel 100% healthy, you're looking for a nickel, and you're trying to do better than Kalen Carson. top 4 rounds.
So even when you're at 114, you're going into the 4th round, you feel pretty good about what you're going to get.
I'll say
You could have a guy that could compete. Absolutely. That 114 spot, it should be talked about. I get that there's 2 first-round picks. That 114 spot, if you hit it right, you can find another defensive.
They've had a good track record of 4th-round picks as of late.
not based on talent, based solely on how quick corners usually are ready to play at the NFL level. Then I would say top 2 rounds. I wouldn't go all the way to 4, just because I think there will be guys in the 3rd round who are more talented than guys like Kalen Carson. But to me, it's like there's always such a curve with rookie corners. They get picked on so consistently at the NFL level that I'd need to see like real top tier talent. That's why I honestly would, if you're going to talk about addressing corner other than the nickel safety hybrid stuff, I'd rather do some of that in free agency.
Yeah. I think you can get into round 4, assuming that the draft helps you out a little bit. Just like, what if like Kyle Lewis is there in the 4? He probably won't, but like, what if Halsey probably won't be there? But what if Genesis Smith? He could be, but what if? I think you can find a safety that can come in and play for you, because I don't think the Cowboys might put some money on safety. I don't know.
Give me names or schools off of those
Genesis
3 names.
Smith, safety from Arizona. I said Kyle Lewis, linebacker, safety type dude from Pitt. And I mentioned Halsey, who probably wouldn't. But some teams may look at Halsey and be like, I don't know if you're going to run that fast because you're that big. From LSU, he might fall to the 4th round or something like that.
Final one that we'll do, and then we'll move on. But safety.
Oh, I just said so.
Yeah,
same kind of
this
thing.
safety class is so
really
deep.
deep.
This is the year of the safety, man. So I'd say 4 rounds and potentially even it could stretch into the 5th. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, if you're talking about 2 open spots, you could probably go 4 rounds. Now, if we're just talking about Hooker, I think Hooker's a good player. I think Hooker catches a bad rap a lot of times. I could basically 1st round with safeties when it comes to Hooker. But like knowing there's 2 open spots, you could go 4 deep probably.
Yeah. Tommy, you had a couple of conversations last week with Christian Parker and around the defensive staff specifically, but did you get any kind of feeling on where they value certain position groups in the draft based off of what you heard from a new scheme change, kind of their thought process?
Well, I think the nickel corner spot is one that he's been very open about. Yeah. But I really think that this group wants to win at the line of scrimmage and get after the quarterback. I think you're good at defensive tackle. They feel good about the 3 guys they've got there. They feel good about the ability to create that interior pressure. But where is this pass rush going to come from? Like, who are the outside linebackers that they're going to trust to close from the outside and turn that corner and put the quarterback in a box? Who are those guys? They move Maris Leaf out outside linebacker. I'm on the fence about that. I don't know if I'm super confident that that's going to work out. Donovan Ezraku, I could see that working out. But, we just talked about, if James Houston and Jadeveon Clowney are your next best options, then I don't think you're going to have a very good pass rush. So, maybe it is a bane coming into the defensive line that they feel like at 12 is a home run. And, why is he sitting here? I've got him at 6 on my board. Or, any one of these pass rushers at 20 if somebody slips, like a Zion Young from Missouri, or if teams are sold on the tape from R. Mason Thomas and can kind of put aside the testing numbers. Is that where they're looking to go early? Because that position in the draft is so much more important, or high value, I should say, is that pass rusher. It's harder to hit on, but is that where they go in the 1st round while filling out linebacker, like you guys talked about in free agency, or filling out corner in free agency because you get a more veteran, experienced player that maybe doesn't have as high of a chance to get picked on? So maybe that's where this team's looking, and that's kind of what I got the impression of. That's certainly more of a possibility than you would think. It just depends on who's there, because Bailey is the best guy in the class, and he's going to go top 7.
Or you could always trade for somebody too.
Anybody in your conversations there too last week?
I would look at you're talking about for top 12?
Yeah. Or just in general, like where they could be looking for 1st round talent, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I would say edge for sure. Absolutely. I'm going to be completely honest. I had gotten a text and I kind of zoned out for a second.
Oh, good.
So what is the question here?
So Christian Parker specifically, with the scheme and with the change and what they've had, based on your conversations last week, do you get a better idea now of where they could be looking to add in the draft?
Yeah,
of a position of need. We've talked about these position needs, but is there one that's starting to kind of?
That's funny because the text
is that what the text was?
Edge.
Wow.
Edge makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Edge does make a lot of sense.
Bobby, Nick, Kyle, Tommy, Based on how y'all feel, the level that the Cowboys are going to go into free agency or trade market to fill the edge room, if they draft an edge guy, Melo Height or Mason Thomas, whoever, Bain, do you think that rookie would be the third best rusher or the fourth best rusher?
I think if they go acquire a veteran edge rusher, your rookie's your third.
Okay. That makes sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Depending on who falls, obviously. Like if you view them as above as a Raku. I think they're going to spend real capital to go get an edge rusher here.
Because the Cowboys go like they'll be like, hey man, we feel real excited about what we did at cornerback. Darryl Worley's about to run out there and do it. You know what I'm saying? Like based on how you feel that they're gonna attack edge, where does the rookie fit in all that is what I'm saying.
I know everybody says I'll believe it when I see it, whatever else. This whole bust the budget line is, I feel like 100% real. Okay. I think they're spending.
I think so too. Final thing before we go, usually out of Indianapolis, we get a better idea of who might be flagged with injuries or concerns across the board. That'll continue to go out between now and the draft. The next 51 days, we're going to learn more and more of that. But Bobby, just kind of your league-wide sources and what you've seen, have you heard of any other names that have popped up? Mentioned Caleb Downs, and I don't want to knock anybody's draft stock, but just kind of the murmurs that you're hearing.
Yeah, not yet. Haven't heard murmurs about any murmurs. Like if anything that was found out there. No, I
never
think
want to
that
hear that.
You're still having, like for instance, I know one person that I'd reached out to about some of the down stuff was the word back was we haven't even gotten through all of our stuff yet. And so still a little early, but I mean, the two that have popped, Downs with the rumor, and then it was announced yesterday by Tom Pelissero was Ahmad Moses at SMU, the safety, who is going to have fusion surgery. And so that's very similar to what Damone Clark had when they found that at the combine. And then obviously didn't work out as a player, but was able to get back on the field and was able to contribute same year. So those are the two big ones that we've started to hear about. But yeah, it'll be more probably next week. You'll start hearing a little bit more chatter about guys who were medically flagged for some things. The big stuff you're hearing right now is just interviews.
Yeah.
You're hearing how people handled interviews and how those went. And so like you're hearing a lot about Sonny Styles. You're hearing some people talk really highly of, even though he didn't test, you're hearing some people talk highly of the way Jermod McCoy interviewed. Both the Tennessee corners, actually, Colton Hood and Jermod McCoy, both apparently interviewed well around the league. And so that's some of the chatter that you're starting to hear right now is just personality, how some guys came off.
Yeah.
And there's a first-round linebacker that I'd be curious to know what comes of some injury concerns that came out of Indy. I don't want to throw it out there just yet because it's just one person telling me this. But again, this injury red flag stuff, it affects everybody. We already talked about Caleb Downs, but there's going to be some interesting names that we talk about in a couple weeks, no doubt.
Got it.
And when these study visits happen and they bring him here to the Cowboys specifically,
even more so.
They send him across the way here to this Baylor Scott and White athletic facility to get them completely looked at.
Which that is a big part of the 30 visits, by the way.
Yeah.
If you see them bring in 30 visit guys, sometimes it's super interesting. Other times it's just we don't have a medical on this guy and we need to get one.
Yeah. Do you feel like because of that, now that the rumor is kind of out there and he was flagged, they want to take another look at it? You're probably going to see Caleb Downs as a 30 visit position of need,
probably.
interest.
Very well.
To get a medical too.
Very well could have seen him with or without that just because of their interest level. But it's also funny. Like, I mean, this is a team and other teams have done it before. They will sometimes use a 30 visit on somebody they're not even particularly interested in. It's with the motive, like, tell me about your teammate. Like, while I got you here, you want to start hearing about. So you bring in an Ohio State player, like, tell me a little bit about Caleb Downs. How did he run things? You just start getting testimony from other guys.
Yeah. All right, we will be back on Thursday with more of the Draft Show, 11 a.m. Central Time. Hope you had some fun with us over the last hour, talking about the NFL Combine, what we learned from it. We'll continue to get into some scouting reports. We're going to talk about a lot of film on Thursday, if y'all are cool with that.
Let's do it.
We've got a lot of news and notes today, a lot of new information, but let's start adding some scouting reports to this show, and we'll have that on Thursday for you. For Voch Lombardi, Nick Harris, Tommy Yarish, Bobby Belt, Chris Beam in the back, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from the Draft Show. We will see you on Thursday.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.